Hello students, welcome back to Kiran's English Hub. We are continuing with the summaries of ninth class English, and so far we have completed all the units till 4, and in this video I am going to take you through the 5th unit, which is related to disasters. The theme of this whole unit is going to be disasters, and in this unit we will go through reading A, that is a havoc of flood. Havoc in the sense the destruction, flood, the strong gush of water which pours out from any dam or from anything because of rain. Okay, let us go through this is the cover page of unit 5. As you can see, disaster, this is the theme for this whole unit, and in this unit we have three readings: a havoc of flood, grabbing everyone on the land, the ham radio. Okay, so as you can see, disasters, the natural disasters which are related to water, we know how destructive it is, right? So whenever there is kind of tsunami or any flood, like recently we had seen floods in even our state, capital Hyderabad. Okay, so we know how destructive they are. So look at the picture and answer the questions that follow. If you look at this picture here, there is a chopper on the top, and that is written as Indian Navy, and they are trying to evacuate the people from their houses. People were, are on the top of their houses, and as you can see, their houses are completely flooded with water. Okay, so what made the people stand on the rooftops? What made the people stand on the houses on the rooftops? The strong gushing of the water or the flood, it made the people to stand on the rooftops. Next one, what are the people in the helicopter trying to do? Okay, the people in the helicopter are trying to help the people who are on the rooftops. Next one, have you ever seen a situation like this in your life? If yes, when and where did you see it? This is classroom question again. Have you seen anywhere, that is directly, okay, not in the movies, my dear kids. Okay, so have you seen this type of scene anywhere, like in a life? Okay, if you have seen when and where, you have to explain that again. That is, kind of a reality. We are not going to speak more on that. We have oral activity here. Talk on natural calamities and their effect on human life. What are natural calamities and what is the effect of natural calamities on the human life? Human life in the sense on us. What happens when these type of natural calamities occur in the society? Okay, that is the question. Got it. So usually when these type of natural calamities occur, people die. Many people have to lose their houses. Many people have to lose all their savings, all their things in their houses. Many people, get flooded with the waters, go out of the cities. People get separated, families get separated, people lose everything that they have. Okay, so there are all negative impacts because of these floods. Okay, now let us see the lesson that we have for the reading. A havoc of flood. Havoc in the sense the destruction of the flood. Okay, so let me briefly tell you what this whole lesson is going to be about. This lesson is about the flood which occurred in Kurnool. Okay, that is a district we have in Andhra Pradesh. Okay, so there was a huge flood which surrounded the entire town here. So the latter after that, many things happened. People had to suffer a lot. Many people got separated. Many people were left without anything, even not even proper clothes. People didn't have food to eat, didn't have a house to stay, didn't have water to drink, didn't have money to spend, nothing. Okay, now let us see what really happened there. Okay, Kurnool, a district with rock solid soil in Andhra Pradesh in the Krishna River basin, is known as the land of rocky temples in Rayalaseema region. Also, this one, Kurnool is a city, or Kurnool is also a district which is completely with the rocky soil. If you visit there, the soil is not so soft and not so suitable to the to cultivate. Okay, so the soil itself is rocky. Okay, so even if there is like the problem with rocky soil is that if there is water, too much water, the water doesn't get devolved into the soil, into the earth. Okay, so this is under the Krishna river basin. So this is known for the rocky temples here. Okay, land of rocky temples. That means all the temples are built on the rocks. The headquarters of district with the namesake is the city with the population of 5 lakhs. Okay, the headquarters is also the Kurnool district. Okay, the Kurnool city, which is the home to 5 lakh people. Thousands of tourists from various parts of the state travel through the city on their ways to tourist spots. Kurnool is kind of town which is in between, you know, between the two states like Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. So many people, many tourists, when they go to Karnataka, to Bangalore, and come back to Hyderabad, they have to go through this spot. Okay. The people of the city welcome the tourists in warm mood. This is a part of their daily routine. Every morning is colorful for them. So all these people of Kurnool, they welcome all the tourists with so much of warm welcome, and this is their daily routine. And every day is kind of a colorful morning. Every day is a new day for them. Okay. But on 28th of September 2009, no tourist visited the city from any part of the state. No bus entered the city from any distant village or town. Something terrible happened which stopped the visitors. So, as we had seen in the previous paragraph, this is the place where through which all the tourists pass. But on this day, 28th of September 2009, no tourist had passed through this way. There was no bus, there was no visitor, there was nobody who was ready to pass through this city. Let us see what happened. On 27th September 2009, the city had a heavy rainfall. As the people had to spend a damp, cold, and cloudy day, they finished their business in the evening and reached their dwelling places at early hours, hoping a bright morning the next day. They had scarcely arrived at their destinations when the rain poured down. Its pouring continued throughout the night. So on 27th September 2009, that is just the day before of the heavy flood. Okay, the people usually in the evening after completing their works, they came back to the houses and they were expecting a very good day the next day. Again, like very calm and peaceful day. Okay, but as soon as they arrived their destinations, that means their houses, destinations in the sense, as soon as they came back to their houses, there was heavy rain which poured down. And what happened here was the city started to get flooded with water. Okay, there was too much of water all around the city, all around the town. As a result, on 28th September 2009, the people of Kannur had to welcome river waters in gloomy colors to their streets instead of buses full of tourists. So usually in the streets of Kannur city, there are buses and vehicles of tourists. But on 28th September 2009, the people of Kannur, they all had to welcome not vehicles of tourists, but this type of flood water, all this gloomy flood water. The flood water color, this is all, kind of, you know, dusty color. Okay, so nobody can see anything clearly what is there in water, right? They got up from their sleep by roaring floods invading their houses as well as shattering their hopes of getting a bright and colorful morning. So instead of welcoming all the tourists, these people had to welcome all these floods. Okay, so and also they lost their hopes, and they actually hoped for a bright day the next morning. But when they got up, they had to see this type of havoc in the floods, havoc in the streets, which were completely filled with the waters, with the flood water. Let us move to the next one. At 10 a.m., the Central Water Commission forecast that the inflows to Srisailam Dam would go up to an enormous level of 20 lakh cusecs of water, the highest in its history, posing a threat to the villages and the banks of Krishna River. By the noon of the day, people bore the brunt of the flood fury as the floodwater reached the first story of several buildings. The Srisailam right bank powerhouse submerged. There were heart rending scenes of people frantically seeking assistance to rescue them. People had never experienced before such a trauma and loss of property. So, here on this day at 10 o'clock in the morning, the Central Water Commission forecast, okay, this is the commission which gives all the updates, just like weather forecast. This is the water forecast, okay. So they have given an update. They said, see, the Srisailam dam is there, so the water levels are going to be enormously go up to 20 lakh cusecs of water. That means if at all that water is at a time released, all the villages surrounded by white will be whitewashed. Okay, so all the villages were so much afraid. They said, we are going to release the water soon, all the villages have to evacuate soon. And also by the noon, the people were completely terrified. The water level was completely to the first floor of all the houses, and the Srisailam right bank powerhouse submerged. The power houses would be there, okay, which produce the electricity just beside the dams. So that house is also submerged under the water, and people frantically were seeking assistance in the sense help. Okay, so everybody asked for help from the other people. So the people of the city, they never experienced this type of trauma and this type of loss of property. They had never seen this type of destruction. You can just imagine, all the city is completely full of water up to their first floor of the houses. So how do you just imagine if you are in their situation, right? So you would shout, you would scream for help. So the same situation happened with the people here. But the government did not have sufficient number of boats and men to help them. The authorities estimated that about 40,000 people had taken shelter on the rooftops. You can just imagine. See, the situation is like that. Nobody expected this type of situation. But here, the government was not ready for this type of scene. So the government didn't have this type of boats which can help to evacuate the people. Okay, and the government also estimated that nearly there are 40,000 of people on the rooftops. 40,000 people in the sense, just imagine, if there are hardly 10 or 15 or 20 people, it takes nearly 2 to 3 hours to evacuate all of them in a chopper, in a helicopter, right? So 40,000 people in a sense, so you can just imagine the situation that was there in that at that time. The floods inundated about 60 villages all over the district, many of them completely submerged. Much of the misery was caused by the Tungabhadra and the Handri Niva rivers, tributaries of Krishna. Several places, including Mantralayam, the seat of Sri Raghavendra Swami Mutt, were under a sheet of 10 feet of water for 4 days. So here you can see these floods which came all of a sudden invaded. That means they were there completely into the villages of 60 villages. So all the 60 villages in this district were full of water. Many of the villages completely submerged. There was not even a single person in the village. All the village were submerged, and much of this havoc and flood was caused by Tungabhadra river and also Handriniva river. Okay, these two are the rivers which were the tributaries of Krishna river. Okay, and also many famous places like Mantralayam and also Sri Raghavendra Swami Mutt, these type of famous places and temples were also under the water for nearly 4 days. Okay, the government was forced to seek the help from the army and the navy. One of the IAF, that means Indian Air Force, that is the full form of IAF, helicopters requisitioned by the government rescued 15 farmers trapped in a swollen stream in a daring operation. Thus, Sunkesula barrage across the Tungabhadra breached at two places as it could not discharge a massive flood. So the government, the Andhra Pradesh government, had immediately had to ask the help from the center. So immediately the center has, sent the team of these navy people and also army people to help these people in Kurnool, and the government also asked for for an IAF chopper to help the farmers who trapped in this water, submerged water. Okay, so this IAF chopper had helped 15 farmers. Okay, so they were completely trapped into the swollen stream. Swollen stream in the sense the water was too much and they trapped in the kind of island in between. And also the barrage, Sunkesula barrage, and also the Tungabhadra, these two are the barrages which were breached in the sense they were cut off. Okay, the water flooded, the water came out of these barrages, and these two barrages gave so much of damage to the people. So the water all of a sudden gushes from these two barrages, and so much of force of water came out of these barrages which gave so much of destruction. Okay, next, 30 relief camps were opened in Kurnool to provide food and shelter to at least 25,000 people rendered homeless. Many people lost everything they had. Apart from seeking the help from the army and the navy, the government requisitioned the personnel of disaster management response force from Arkonam in Tamil Nadu, a transport aircraft, 30 inflatable boats, and an equal number of fiberglass boats. So here you can see the picture. Okay, these are the bulkheads on which people started to move from place to place. Okay, so here there were 30 relief camps which were opened in Kurnool. Relief camp in the sense all these people can come out of these flood areas and can take shelter in these areas. Okay, so at least there were 25,000 people in these relief camps. So they were all homeless, and also many people, they lost everything they had. They lost their families, they lost their houses, they lost their property, they lost their agricultural fields, they lost their things at home. Okay, everything. So all they left is only themselves along with them, so nothing else. Okay, apart from seeking help from the army and navy, the government also, the Andhra Pradesh government funds, is it asked the help from army and navy from the center, and also it asked the help from the disaster management sector, that is the team from Tamil Nadu. Okay, so they provided a transport aircraft, a 30 inflatable boats, and an equal number of fiberglass boats. That means 30 fiberglass boats. So all of them were requisitioned. That means requested from Telangana, this one Tamil Nadu government also. Okay, so you can just imagine the help that came from the center was not sufficient to rescue all the people who were completely trapped into these waters. So all the water rose to the roof level. The people were reluctant to leave their houses and were still seen groping for their valuables. See, the water was almost to the first floors of their houses. All of them were on the rooftops. But you can just imagine, who on earth can simply leave their house and run away? Yes or no? All their savings, all their things, all their valuables would be there in their houses. So the people were not ready to leave their houses, though the water was almost to the first floor of their houses. Okay. The pathetic plight was that the people of that village hurried to the safer places for their lives, leaving everything they had, houses, properties, lands, and cattle. The pathetic plight, in the sense, the saddest thing that we can see in this area at that time was the people had to leave everything they had and they had to run away. They had to leave their houses, they had to leave their properties, their lands, their cattle. Okay, these are all the basic valuables that they have. Okay, heart-rending sights welcomed them when they were back home after the flood catastrophe. So after all this flood and all, when they came back to their houses, they had to see heart-rending sights. Heart-rending sights in the sense, the sights, the scenes which were so much destructive. All the mud, all the water. Okay, so their houses were completely drenched in water, so they had nothing left, all the valuables were flooded away with the water. So these are called as heart rendering sights. Poor cattle, cows, calves, buffaloes, bullocks, all other domestic animals unaware of what was to come had to die as they were fastened to their sheds. The grief struck people stood aghast as their paddy fields, which were about to be reaped, engulfed by the massive floods. So one thing is, the animals, the cattle, all the animals and cattle, they do not know what was happening, what was going to come. See, we can understand the destructive thing that is going to come just with the disastrous teams and all. But how come animals know what was going on? Right. So they did not know what was going on and they simply went to their sheds in the evening. So because of this thing, almost all the cattle were dead. Okay, only few of them were left, that too because of the time being, okay, which some of the people had to take their cattle away. So because of that reason they got saved from this. Most of the cattle were dead, and also the people had to suffer one important thing. The thing is, all their paddy fields were reaped, and because of this flood all the paddy fields were gone. There was no more paddy left. You can understand, all the Andhra Pradesh people, they depend on the paddy. Okay, so their basic life thing, their basic manner of income is to cultivate these paddy fields and get money. But all the paddy fields were destructively flooded with the water. They have nothing left. The government officials and voluntary organizations that arrived at the spot witnessed the badly damaged roads, railways, and collapsed bridges. The government officials, they visited these areas. The voluntary organizations, they wanted to help these people who were in these floods. So they had witnessed all the damaged roads, all the damaged railways, collapsed bridges, everything. Okay, the government sent relief teams as early as possible to distribute the emergency relief supplies like food, drinking water, and clothing among the food survivors. The relief team reached some of the worst hit areas and found that the people had lost their whole lives, their memories, homes, and loved ones. So, immediately soon after the flood, the government sent all the relief teams immediately, and also all the private organizations who wanted to help these people, they went there, and immediately all the government officials, they started to give food, drinking water, clothes, okay, among the people who were of the survivors. Okay, so and also the relief teams approached the worst hit areas. That means the places where there was so much of destruction. Okay, and they saw that those people lost everything, all the money they have, all the memories they had, all the houses, all the loved ones. Many people were dead. Okay, so they lost their everything. Thousands of people were misplaced from their homes. All of them were in need of food and drinking water. They were looking on with wide open eyes for some help to meet their needs. So another drastic thing is that they got separated from their loved ones. So when there is flood, people do not know where to go, with whom to go. So immediately they misplaced themselves. So they missed their loved ones, and also they were all in need of drinking water. So like floods, immediately when there were floods, there would be all mud water. Okay, the water is not suitable for drinking. So all the drinking water was in need. So people started to supply drinking water, and everybody was hoping for some help. Okay, so they all thought, like, oh God, let someone come and help us. Okay, no sooner had the relief teams arrived there than their joy knew no bounds. So immediately when the relief teams went there to the worst hit places, they thought, oh God, our lives are in in safe hands now. So they felt so much of relief. They were so happy as soon as they saw the relief teams. A sigh of relief rejuvenated their faces. The people were given food, bed sheets, lungis, and towels. Some of them were half naked. No sooner had they received the clothes than they expressed their gratitude with the pulled down faces of two sleepless nights. So as soon as these relief teams went there, they started giving clothes, they started giving food, they started giving water. So immediately, as soon as the people got all these items from the relief teams, they expressed their gratitude, and they spent two sleepless nights. So now this is a time for them to get some sleep, get some rest. Okay, so they expressed their joy. One of the sufferers of the floods was a widow of well past 40. She had four children. No sooner had the relief team visited this family than they bitterly cried and held on to the members of the team, sharing their problems with tears rolling down the cheeks. So like as this relief team was passing from one area to another area, so there was one area where there was a widow who was at the age of almost 40 plus. She had four children. So as soon as this family saw this relief team, immediately they went and hugged this relief team and started to cry. Okay, so you can just imagine the pain that they experienced these 2 days. Okay, she said that when the surging water rushed into her tiny mud shack, the flimsy structure collapsed. She and her four children had to flee for shelter to a roadside situated above water level. For 2 days, she stayed there with four children without food to eat and water to drink. She said that she had to watch her young children suffer, not knowing what to do. So, as soon as the relief team came, these people immediately went and hugged them, and she started saying, see, we had to come out of our tiny house because her tiny was of mud constructed house. So, as soon as the water came, so all the mud would go out, and the small house collapsed. So, immediately they had to come to a safer place, and they stayed there for a very long time. They had no water to drink, there was no food. All these four children were there. The mother did not know what to do. She just had to see her children suffer, nothing else. As you can see the picture here, all the people took place on a roadside, brought all their valuables, like what are the valuables that they can. You can see some of the rice that was wet. Okay, it was just given a place in the on the road, okay, to get dried. You can see they brought their small chairs, utensils, small very few things that they have in their houses. They are all very poor people. Okay, these type of problems are again for the poorer people itself. Okay, so the relief team brought her and her four children to flood relief distribution camp, which was being organized by the government in Kurnool. So as soon as the relief team heard the pain of this family, they brought this woman and also the four children to the relief camp, which was organized by the Kurnool government there. There she received rice, blankets, and other supplies with her family needed. So immediately the relief team, they brought these rice, okay, blankets, and other small supplies that they need for this family. She felt that The help came as a great relief in her utter despair. Many private donors were moved on seeing her children. They provided the mother with some rice, corn, some pots, and pans for cooking. They also constructed a temporary shed for her family. She expressed her gratitude with a beaming face, saying that she would remain ever thankful for the help she received. Okay, so immediately all the other people who heard of this family, all the other generous people, many private donors, they thought that the family need some help, so immediately they gave some rice, other utensils, okay, or corn, pots, cooking essentials and all. So they also built some small temporary house for this family. So she expressed her gratitude, saying that she would remain ever thankful for the help. Okay, that means she is always thankful. She has nothing to repay them, but she is always thankful for them. So this was the final saying from this woman. Okay, and also here we can see a quote here, my dear students: help always pays gratitude. That means when you help the people, you would get something in return, that is gratitude. A thanks from the people is so much enough if at all you have helped any person. So this is the havoc of flood that we can see. You can just imagine the pain that if you are there in this situation. Got it? So the glossary we have here is basin, that means the area of the land which comes under a particular river. Okay, next, namesake in the sense, uh, for the same name or a person named after another. Dwelling in the sense living or residing in a particular area. Gloomy is sad, and another gloomy in the sense cloudy. Both meanings can be there. Next one, inadequate in the sense to something which is covered with water or submerged underwater. Enormous in the sense means extremely large or extremely big. Bad to burnt means to receive the worst effect of bad situation. Heart rendering means causing grief. Grief means pain. Next, frantically, that means in uncontrolled emotions due to fear or worry. Rescue is to save from danger. Tributaries are the rivers or streams that flow into a targeted river. We can just say the small river which merges into the big river. The small ones are called as tributaries. Next, breach is to make hole or an opening. So from the small hole or opening, all the water gushes out. Next one, groping is to search. Pathetic plight, that means pitiful, difficult or sad situation. Next, catastrophe means disaster. Okay, sudden disaster that causes many people to suffer. August is filled with water. Oh, sorry, filled with horror and surprise. Engulf, that means flow over, cover completely, or immerse. Okay, engulf in the sense like with the force immediately coming out, flow over. Next one, regenerate is look more lively again. That means having that same energy again after a long time. Next, shack is to hurt. Next, flimsy, weak and feeble. That means which can be damaged very easily. Donor is a person who is kind of good Samaritan who helps people. Beaming, cheerful and bright, or pleased, kind of happy. Got it? So all the aspirants of TET-DSC, you have to focus more on the glossary, that is for the synonyms antonyms purpose. And all the students who are watching it for the sake of exams, please go through the questions that you have later. So according to the questions given, you have to frame your answer. And this is the video that you can make use of to understand the stories, to understand um, the the whole brief summaries, and also the whole summary of the whole lesson that you have. So we are not going to discuss question and answers exactly here that you can get from the materials. This is only for the understanding of the whole lesson. All the touch DSA aspirants have to focus more on the grammar part that you have in this lesson. We have so much of vocabulary in this lesson. And this is ninth class vocabulary, my dear aspirants. You should really focus on the vocabulary that you have in this unit. Okay, students. So in the next video, we will come up with another video here, that is reading B. In reading B, we have poem that is grabbing everything on the land, right? So see you all in the next video with a poem. Thank you for watching.